Elon Musk sat quietly in his office, a rare moment of stillness amidst the whirlwind of innovation and ambition that defined his life. The idea had come to him during a conversation with a colleague about human behavior. What would happen if people didn't recognize him? How would they treat someone who seemed to have nothing? The thought lingered, turning into an irresistible challenge. Weeks later, on an overcast Thursday afternoon, he finalized the details. His disguise was simple yet effective: secondhand clothing from a local thrift shop, scuffed sneakers that barely held together, and a scruffy, unkempt wig. A small makeup team completed the look, adding just enough wear to his face to erase the familiar features that graced magazine covers and news feeds. The transformation was stunning. Elon Musk, the billionaire innovator, now looked like any man who had fallen on hard times. He chose his destination carefully: the Copper Elm, an upscale restaurant in Santa Fe, New Mexico, known for its exclusivity and elegant clientele. It was the perfect testing ground. This wasn't about shaming anyone but understanding human nature. Would people look beyond the surface, or would they let appearances dictate their actions? Before leaving, he took a final glance in the mirror. The reflection staring back at him was unfamiliar, almost haunting. For the first time in years, he felt invisible, stripped of the identity that had defined him. With a deep breath, he stepped out the door, his heart beating faster than he expected. The ride to the restaurant was uneventful, the city bustling with life as usual. But for Elon, every moment felt charged with anticipation. As he approached the grand double doors of the Copper Elm, he hesitated for a fraction of a second. Then, pushing them open, he stepped inside, his experiment officially underway. The Copper Elm exuded sophistication. The chandeliers cast a warm glow over meticulously arranged tables, and the murmur of conversation mixed with the occasional clinking of glasses. Elon's entrance caused a subtle ripple. Patrons glanced up briefly before resuming their meals, but the staff lingered, their eyes darting toward him. He stepped cautiously onto the polished hardwood floor, aware of every scuff his worn-out shoes made. A hostess, impeccably dressed in black, approached him hesitantly. Her professional smile wavered as she took in his appearance. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice polite but strained. "Yes," Elon replied, his tone steady but soft. "I'd like a table for one." The hostess glanced toward the bar, where a manager stood watching the interaction closely. Her smile faltered further. "We're fully booked tonight," she said quickly, her eyes flicking to a row of empty tables. Elon caught the glance but said nothing. Instead, he waited, letting the silence grow uncomfortable. From across the room, a young server named Sophia noticed the exchange. She had only been working at the Copper Elm for a few months, saving up for culinary school. Something about the man's demeanor struck her, not pity, but curiosity. She could tell he wasn't just another wanderer looking for shelter. "I can seat him," Sophia called out, stepping forward before the hostess could dismiss him entirely. The room went quiet for a moment, all eyes on her, including the managers, who frowned but said nothing. Elon offered Sophia a faint smile as she led him to a small table near the kitchen doors. It wasn't the prime spot, but it was a seat, and he was grateful. "Thank you," he said, his voice sincere. Sophia nodded, placing a menu in front of him. "Take your time," she said warmly, ignoring the whispers that started up around her. Elon observed the room carefully as he flipped through the menu. The glances from other diners ranged from curious to disdainful. He overheard snippets of conversation, speculation about who he was and why he was there. The staff, too, seemed uneasy. One server whispered loudly to another, "What's he even doing here?" Another added, "This is going to scare off the regulars." Elon noted their reactions silently, each one adding to the picture he was piecing together. As Sophia returned to take his order, Elon decided on something simple: soup and bread. "That's all?" she asked, her tone kind but surprised. "That's all," Elon replied. Sophia didn't question him further. She disappeared into the kitchen, leaving Elon alone with his thoughts and the judgmental stares of the room. He could feel the weight of their gazes, but it didn't faze him. If anything, it confirmed why he was there. People often talked about kindness and empathy, but how often did they practice it when it truly mattered? The stage was set, and Elon's experiment was only beginning. As Elon waited for his meal, the tension in the room grew palpable. Diners whispered behind napkins, some glancing at him with barely concealed disdain. A man at a nearby table leaned toward his companion, muttering, "What's management thinking, letting someone like that in here?" Elon didn't react, keeping his focus on the room. He noticed the small details, the way the hostess avoided looking in his direction, the bartender chuckling quietly with a server, and even the manager's occasional glances of disapproval. Every reaction painted a vivid picture of how appearances dictated perceptions. Sophia returned with a tray, carefully setting down a steaming bowl of tomato bisque and a small basket of bread. She placed the dishes in front of him with the same care she would for any other customer. "Enjoy your meal," she said, her smile genuine. "Thank you," Elon said, meeting her gaze. He could sense that Sophia wasn't just doing her job, she was acting out of kindness. As he ate, he noticed Sophia moving between tables, her pace quick but her demeanor calm. She worked tirelessly, ensuring every customer felt attended to. Elon watched as she handled even the most demanding patrons with grace, her patience unshaken despite the occasional condescending remark. At one point, an older woman called Sophia over, clearly agitated. "Why are you wasting time on him?" she asked, gesturing subtly toward Elon. "People like that shouldn't even be allowed in here." Sophia's cheeks flushed, but she maintained her composure. "I believe everyone deserves respect, ma'am," she replied firmly. The woman huffed, turning back to her meal without another word. Elon couldn't help but admire Sophia's courage. It wasn't easy to stand up for someone society deemed unworthy, especially in a place like this. As he finished his soup, a different server approached his table, a man in his late 20s with a stiff demeanor. "Are you planning to order anything else?" he asked, his tone bordering on rude. "No, thank you," Elon replied calmly. The server gave him a tight-lipped smile before walking away, muttering something under his breath. Elon caught the words "waste of space" and noted them mentally. Across the room, a young couple exchanged nervous glances. The woman whispered, "What if he tries to ask us for money?" Her partner shrugged, but his expression mirrored her discomfort. Through it all, Elon remained composed, his mind racing with thoughts. This wasn't just about how he was treated, it was about the assumptions people made without knowing a thing about him. As Sophia cleared his table, she paused for a moment. "Is everything okay?" she asked softly. Elon looked up, surprised by her question. "Yes. Thank you for your kindness," he said. Her expression softened, and she gave him a small nod before moving on. In that brief moment, he saw the humanity he had hoped to find, a glimmer of empathy in a sea of judgment. The atmosphere in the restaurant remained tense, but Elon felt a sense of clarity. The experiment was revealing more than he had anticipated, and the next phase would take things to an entirely different level. The tension in the restaurant reached its peak as Elon stood from his table. His meal was finished, but his experiment was far from over. Slowly, he walked toward the center of the room, his every movement drawing the attention of staff and diners alike. Sophia, carrying a tray of empty glasses, stopped in her tracks, her eyes following him curiously. The manager, who had been observing him all evening, approached briskly, clearly ready to escort him out. "Excuse me, sir," the manager began, his voice clipped. "If you're finished, I'll have to ask you to leave our establishment." Elon raised a hand, cutting him off gently but firmly. "I'll leave shortly," he said, his voice calm but commanding. "But before I go, I need to say something." The room fell silent. The diners, who had spent the evening sneering and whispering, now looked on with a mix of curiosity and irritation. Elon reached up, removing the wig that had concealed his identity. Gasps rippled through the room as he straightened, revealing the familiar face that had graced countless headlines and interviews. "Elon Musk," someone whispered in disbelief. He let the recognition sink in before he spoke again. "Yes, it's me," he said, scanning the room. "And tonight, I came here not as the man you know but as someone you wouldn't give a second glance to. I wanted to see how people treat those they believe to be beneath them." The room remained eerily quiet, the weight of his words settling over everyone. "I saw disdain. I heard whispers. I witnessed judgment, all because of how I appeared," he continued, his voice steady but tinged with disappointment. But one person in this entire room, treated me with kindness and respect. His eyes found Sophia, who stood frozen, her tray still in hand. Sophia, he said, gesturing for her to step forward. You didn't know who I was, yet you chose to treat me like a human being. That's the kind of character that matters. Sophia's face turned bright red as she set down her tray and walked hesitantly toward him. I was just doing my job, she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. No, Elon replied, shaking his head. You went beyond that. You showed empathy when it would have been easier to look the other way. The diners looked at Sophia, their expressions ranging from guilt to admiration. Elon turned back to the room. To those of you who judged me tonight, let this be a lesson. Appearances are deceiving. The way you treat others reveals who you truly are. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small envelope, handing it to Sophia. This is for you, he said. Sophia opened it carefully, her hands trembling. Inside was a handwritten note and a check. She read the note aloud. Sophia, thank you for your kindness. Use this to follow your dreams, culinary school, your own restaurant, whatever you choose. The world needs more people like you. Her voice broke as she read the last words, tears streaming down her face. The check, written for $50,000, slipped from her hand as the room erupted into murmurs of shock and awe. Elon turned to the manager. And for this restaurant, consider this a reminder to create a culture of respect for everyone who walks through your doors. The manager, clearly flustered, nodded but said nothing. The room was a mix of stunned silence and quiet apologies as Elon made his way to the exit. Before leaving, he turned back to Sophia. Never lose that spark of kindness. It's rare, and it's powerful. With that, he left, the door closing softly behind him, leaving a room full of people re-evaluating their actions. The restaurant remained silent long after Elon Musk walked out. Patrons who had whispered cruel comments moments earlier now shifted uncomfortably in their seats, their faces flushed with embarrassment. Some avoided making eye contact with each other, while others fidgeted with their silverware. Sophia stood in the middle of it all, still clutching the note, her emotions a whirlwind of gratitude, disbelief, and pride. The manager approached her hesitantly, his usually confident demeanor now awkward and subdued. You handled yourself well tonight, he said, his voice quieter than usual. Sophia glanced up, her expression unreadable. Thank you, she replied, her tone polite but distant. She knew the manager had been one of the first to doubt Elon's presence, and now the shift in his attitude felt too little, too late. Across the room, a family who had openly stared at Elon earlier leaned in to whisper amongst themselves. The father sighed heavily, his face betraying a mixture of guilt and regret. We shouldn't have judged him like that, he admitted to his teenage son, who nodded silently. At another table, a woman dabbed at her eyes with a napkin, her voice breaking as she spoke to her partner. What if we've treated other people the same way, people we didn't even notice? Sophia quietly resumed her work, clearing dishes and resetting tables, but the weight of what had happened lingered. Every interaction she had with a customer that night felt charged with an unspoken apology, a shared understanding that they had all learned a lesson they hadn't anticipated. As the evening wound down, Sophia slipped into the kitchen for a moment to catch her breath. She unfolded the note Elon had written, reading it again carefully. Beneath his message of gratitude, he had added a final line. Kindness is the currency that never loses its value. Keep spending it. Her heart swelled as she tucked the note into her apron pocket, the words a reminder of what truly mattered. When the last table was cleared and the staff began cleaning up for the night, the atmosphere in the restaurant felt different, lighter, yet introspective. The usual chatter and laughter had been replaced by quiet reflection. The staff gathered briefly at the end of their shift, as they always did. The manager, uncharacteristically reserved, addressed the team. Tonight was unusual, he began, choosing his words carefully. And I think we all have something to think about after what happened. Let's make sure this place represents what we say we stand for. Sophia caught a few glances from her coworkers, some offering small smiles of respect. She didn't need their approval, but it felt good to know that her actions hadn't gone unnoticed. As she left the restaurant that night, the envelope tucked securely in her bag, she felt a renewed sense of purpose. The money would change her life, yes, but the lesson she had witnessed would change how she approached the world forever. Days after the event, news of Elon Musk's undercover experiment spread like wildfire. Social media platforms buzzed with discussions, the story reaching millions of people across the globe. Headlines ranged from Elon Musk tests humanity at upscale restaurant to * billionaire rewards kindness in unforgettable experiment. *. The Copper Elm quickly became the center of attention, though not all of it was flattering. Stories of the staff's and diners' initial reactions drew both criticism and introspection from readers. Comment sections filled with debates about empathy, societal judgment, and how appearances shape perceptions. Sophia's life, meanwhile, transformed overnight. Reporters sought her out for interviews, eager to hear her perspective on the event. She was hesitant at first, overwhelmed by the sudden spotlight, but when she finally spoke, her words were simple yet powerful. It wasn't about knowing who he was, she told one journalist. It was about treating someone with dignity, no matter their circumstances. That's something we should all do, not just for billionaires in disguise, but for everyone. The $50,000 check allowed Sophia to enroll in culinary school, something she had only dreamed of before. But more importantly, the experience gave her a platform to advocate for kindness and inclusivity in the service industry and beyond. As for Elon, he reflected on the experiment privately. In an interview months later, he spoke briefly about the experience. "It reminded me that the smallest actions can reveal the biggest truths," he said. "Kindness isn't just about grand gestures, it's about the everyday choices we make." The Copper Elm also underwent changes. The management implemented new training programs emphasizing empathy and respect for all guests, regardless of appearance. The staff, particularly those who had been dismissive that night, found themselves re-evaluating their biases and behavior. For those who had been present in the restaurant that evening, the lesson stayed with them. Many returned to their daily lives with a new perspective, carrying the memory of that night as a reminder to treat others with compassion. The ripple effect of Elon Musk's experiment extended far beyond the walls of the Copper Elm. Conversations sparked by the story inspired individuals and organizations to reflect on their own behaviors and attitudes. Businesses around the world began reassessing their policies and training programs to prioritize empathy and inclusivity. Sophia, now a culinary student, continued to receive messages of support and gratitude from strangers who had read or heard about her story. Many shared how her simple act of kindness had inspired them to approach their own lives with more compassion. One such message came from a single mother in Michigan who wrote, "I saw your story and realized how many people I might have judged unfairly. Thank you for reminding us all to be better." Sophia kept these messages close, drawing strength from them during the long, challenging days of culinary school. She worked tirelessly, her passion for cooking fueled not just by her dream of owning a restaurant but by a desire to create a space where everyone felt welcome and valued. Years later, Sophia achieved that dream. Her restaurant, aptly named The Kind Table, opened its doors to immediate acclaim. The menu, a fusion of comfort food and innovative cuisine, reflected her journey, a blend of humility, creativity, and resilience. The restaurant's philosophy, displayed prominently on its walls, was simple yet profound. Kindness is the key ingredient in every dish we serve. It's what makes a meal memorable and a place feel like home. Sophia's story, and the origins of The Kind Table, became a cornerstone of its identity. Patrons from all walks of life came to experience not just the food but the warmth and inclusivity that defined the space. Elon, who had followed Sophia's journey from afar, eventually visited The Kind Table years after its opening. Unannounced and dressed casually, he walked in one quiet afternoon, greeted by the soft hum of conversation and the comforting aroma of freshly baked bread. Sophia, now a confident chef and restaurateur, recognized him instantly. Her eyes widened in surprise, and a warm smile spread across her face. "Mr. Musk," she said, setting down her apron. "I didn't expect to see you here." "I wouldn't miss it," Elon replied, glancing around the cozy space. "This place is remarkable, Sophia. You've created something truly special." Sophia led him to a table, personally taking his order and ensuring he felt at home. As they chatted, Elon expressed his pride in her achievements and the way she had turned a single moment of kindness into a lifetime of impact. Before leaving, Elon left a note on the table, reminiscent of the one he had given her years ago. "Sophia, you've proven that kindness has a ripple effect. Thank you for inspiring the world, one plate at a time." Sophia kept the note, framing it and placing it in a quiet corner of the restaurant. A reminder of the night her life changed forever and the power of treating others with humanity. Meanwhile, the lessons from that evening continued to echo in the lives of those who had been present at the Copper Elm. The diners who had sneered and judged found themselves reflecting on their behavior. Many reached out to apologize to the restaurant staff, particularly to Sophia, admitting their own faults and vowing to do better. The hostess, who had initially tried to turn Elon away, became an advocate for change within the hospitality industry, joining initiatives to promote equity and compassion in customer service. Even the manager, who had been complicit in the judgment, took it upon himself to foster a more inclusive environment at the Copper Elm. Under his leadership, the restaurant became known not just for its fine dining but for its commitment to treating every guest with dignity. The years following Elon Musk's experiment marked a significant shift in how people approached the ideas of empathy and judgment. The story of that single evening at the Copper Elm continued to be shared and discussed, finding its way into textbooks, seminars, and even workplace training programs. Sophia's restaurant, The Kind Table, became a beacon for these conversations. It wasn't just about the food, it was about the values it represented. Every detail of the space, from the decor to the service, was a testament to the philosophy that had guided her since that fateful night. Patrons often commented on how welcomed and seen they felt, regardless of who they were or where they came from. One evening, as Sophia closed the restaurant, she sat alone by the window, reflecting on her journey. The framed note from Elon, displayed on a nearby shelf, caught her eye. She smiled, recalling not just the moment he revealed his identity but the profound lesson he had taught her and so many others. Meanwhile, Elon, though often preoccupied with his work in technology and space exploration, occasionally revisited the impact of his experiment. In interviews, he would speak about it not as a lesson he taught others but as a lesson he himself learned. It wasn't about proving a point, he explained during one such interview. It was about understanding the value of human connection. That night taught me more about people and myself than any boardroom or laboratory ever could. Elon's reflections inspired others in positions of power and influence to take a closer look at their own actions. Several high-profile leaders reached out to him, curious about his motivations and eager to replicate similar experiments in their own spheres. One such initiative came from a tech CEO who, after hearing Elon's story, decided to spend a week volunteering at a homeless shelter, incognito. The experience, he later said, was transformative, giving him a deeper understanding of the challenges faced by marginalized communities. Back at the Copper Elm, the changes that had been implemented following Elon's visit continued to shape the restaurant's culture. Staff turnover decreased significantly as employees felt more valued and supported. Regular patrons noticed the shift, too, often remarking on how much more inviting the atmosphere felt. Sophia, though no longer an employee there, occasionally received updates from her former colleagues. One such update came in the form of a letter from the hostess who had initially tried to turn Elon away. The letter read, "Dear Sophia, I think about that night often. At first, I felt embarrassed, ashamed, even, of how I acted. But over time, I realized it was an opportunity to grow. Watching you handle the situation with such grace inspired me to do better, not just at work but in life. I owe you, and Mr. Musk, a debt of gratitude for showing me the power of kindness. Thank you. Emily." Sophia kept the letter in a drawer at home, alongside other keepsakes from her journey. It served as another reminder of how a single act of compassion could create ripples far beyond what anyone might imagine. The media frenzy around Elon's experiment eventually quieted, but its impact lingered. Stories emerged from around the world of people inspired to re-evaluate their own biases and behaviors. Teachers used the tale as a lesson in empathy for their students, while community leaders organized events centered on breaking down stereotypes and fostering understanding. One particularly touching story came from a small town in Iowa, where a group of high school students started a project called the Kindness Chain. Inspired by Sophia's actions, they committed to performing one act of kindness each day, passing the baton to another student with the challenge to do the same. The project grew rapidly, eventually involving the entire school and even the local community. Sophia heard about the project through a news article and was deeply moved. She reached out to the students, offering to visit their school and share her story in person. The visit was a heartwarming success, with students and teachers alike expressing their gratitude for her example. Elon's experiment also found its way into academic circles. Sociologists and psychologists analyzed the event, discussing its implications for understanding human behavior. Papers were written and conferences held, exploring questions such as: how much do appearances influence our perceptions of others? What role does empathy play in breaking down societal barriers? How can businesses and organizations foster cultures of inclusivity? These discussions often cited Sophia's actions as a pivotal example of the impact one individual could have. Her decision to treat Elon with dignity, without knowing who he was, became a case study in the power of kindness. Years later, Elon and Sophia's paths crossed again at a global conference on social innovation. Sophia, now a successful chef and advocate for inclusivity, was invited to speak about her journey and the lessons she had learned along the way. Elon, one of the keynote speakers, watched from the audience as Sophia shared her story. She spoke with passion and authenticity, her words resonating deeply with those in attendance. When she finished, the room erupted into applause, a standing ovation that left her momentarily speechless. After the event, Elon approached her, his trademark grin in place. "You've come a long way," he said. Sophia laughed, shaking his hand. "I could say the same to you." They spent the evening reminiscing about that night at the Copper Elm, marveling at how much had changed since then. For both of them, the experiment had been a turning point, a reminder of the values that truly mattered. As the years went on, the story of Elon Musk's undercover experiment became a timeless parable, a tale passed down as a reminder of the importance of kindness, empathy, and seeing beyond the surface. It wasn't just about a billionaire's disguise or a server's courage, it was about the choices we all make every day, the choice to judge or to understand, to look away or to step forward. In the end, the lesson was clear: the simplest acts of humanity could create the most profound and lasting changes. The legacy of Elon Musk's experiment continued to influence countless lives long after the event itself faded from the headlines. It wasn't just a moment in time, it became a movement, a story that carried a message of empathy and action across generations. Sophia's growing influence ***. Sophia's restaurant, The Kind Table, became more than just a dining establishment. It turned into a hub for community initiatives, hosting events aimed at promoting understanding and inclusivity. From food drives to workshops on overcoming biases, the restaurant became a gathering place where people could learn and grow together. Sophia herself stepped into a larger role as an advocate for change. She began giving talks at conferences, schools, and businesses, sharing her story and emphasizing the importance of treating everyone with respect. Her speeches were heartfelt and relatable, often leaving audiences inspired to reflect on their own actions. One of her most impactful initiatives was a mentorship program for young culinary students from underprivileged backgrounds. The program, funded in part by the initial check from Elon Musk, helped dozens of aspiring chefs gain the skills and confidence they needed to succeed in the competitive food industry. "Cooking is about connection," Sophia would often say. "When we cook with love and serve with kindness, it changes everything, not just for the people we serve but for ourselves as well." A new chapter for Elon ***. For Elon Musk, the experiment became a pivotal moment in his life, one that shifted his perspective on leadership and responsibility. While he remained focused on his ventures in technology and space exploration, he began integrating lessons from the experiment into his companies. Tesla and SpaceX, already known for their innovation, became leaders in fostering workplace cultures that prioritized empathy and collaboration. Elon introduced initiatives that encouraged employees to engage with their communities, from volunteering programs to partnerships with local charities. In one notable instance, Elon announced a new project called the Human Connection, aimed at bridging the gap between technology and social impact. The initiative focused on developing tools and platforms to promote empathy and understanding in a rapidly digitizing world. During the launch event for the Human Connection, Elon spoke candidly about the inspiration behind it. Technology is a powerful tool, he said. But it's only as effective as the values behind it. The experiment at the Copper Elm taught me that the greatest innovations come not just from the mind but from the heart. The Copper Elm's transformation ****. The Copper Elm itself underwent a profound transformation. Under new management, the restaurant embraced a mission of inclusivity and respect. The story of Elon Musk's visit became a defining moment in its history, one that shaped its future. The staff received training in empathy and customer service, and the restaurant began hosting community events focused on breaking down stereotypes and fostering understanding. The changes earned the Copper Elm a reputation as not just an upscale restaurant but a place where everyone felt welcome. The manager who had been present that fateful evening later reflected on the experience in an interview. "It was a wake-up call," he admitted. "That night taught us all a lesson about what really matters, not the clothes someone wears or the money they have, but the kindness we show them." A global movement ****. The story of Elon Musk's experiment inspired a wave of similar actions around the world. Celebrities, business leaders, and everyday individuals began stepping out of their comfort zones to experience life from a different perspective. In London, a prominent fashion designer spent a week living on the streets, later using her platform to advocate for policies addressing homelessness. In Tokyo, a tech entrepreneur disguised himself as a janitor in his own company, learning valuable lessons about humility and respect. These stories, like Elon's, sparked conversations and initiatives that emphasized the importance of empathy in a world often driven by appearances and status. Sophia's continued journey ****. Years after the experiment, Sophia published a memoir titled Beyond the Table, A Journey of Kindness and Connection. The book chronicled her experiences, from her early days as a server at the Copper Elm to her rise as a celebrated chef and advocate for social change. The memoir became a bestseller, resonating with readers around the globe. In its pages, Sophia emphasized that her story wasn't unique, that everyone had the capacity to create meaningful change through small, everyday acts of kindness. "Kindness doesn't require wealth or fame," she wrote. "It requires intention. It's about choosing to see the humanity in others, even when it's not easy." The success of the memoir allowed Sophia to expand her initiatives, funding scholarships for culinary students and launching programs to address food insecurity in underserved communities. Elon's reflection ****. As time passed, Elon Musk often revisited the lessons of his experiment. In a rare personal blog post, he wrote, "Going undercover at the Copper Elm wasn't about testing others, it was about testing myself. It reminded me of the values we sometimes overlook in the pursuit of success. Kindness, empathy, humility, these are the things that truly matter, the things that endure." The post went viral, sparking a renewed wave of discussions about the role of compassion in leadership and innovation. A lasting legacy ****. The story of Elon Musk's experiment and Sophia's act of kindness became a timeless reminder of the power of empathy. It was retold in classrooms, workplaces, and homes, inspiring people to look beyond appearances and treat others with respect and dignity. Sophia's restaurant, Elon's initiatives, and the countless stories they inspired became part of a larger movement, a testament to the ripple effect of one moment of kindness. In the end, the experiment wasn't just about a billionaire in disguise or a server's courage. It was about the choices we all face every day and the profound impact those choices can have on the world around us.